So it is the 10th of September and this is my reading vlog. Last night I started reading my own book again, The Hunted, which is the first book in the Phoenix series. The reason I decided to actually start here, because I know I said I was going to start with The Color Purple, or I can't even remember what I said now, is because I'm getting book 2 in the Phoenix series back from the editor after its final edit this week or early next week. And I wanted to go through it all because it's been 6 months since this was published. I wanted to really go at it with clean eyes and with a fresh mind space. And also I wanted to see if that could kickstart me back into feeling like writing, because I haven't felt like writing for the last week or two. And also I knew a couple of my friends read it and said that they loved it, but they mentioned that they saw about 5 typos. They said it wasn't enough that it annoyed them, but because they were looking for them, because I'd asked them to, they said they found a few. I found one last night. It's one that's going to annoy me enough that I will change it once I've finished a read through. Obviously, you have to accept at a certain point that you're never going to catch every typo, and that's life, but you know, if I've seen it, I can't unsee it, so just gonna have to go in and amend that. But I'm also wanting to make a couple more videos for you guys about The Hunted in the lead up to the publishing of book number 2, but also because book 3 is at the point at which I have done the first edit of the first draft. I need to go through this again to make sure that I'm cross-checking all the details between 1, 2, and 3. So for a series that it's consistent and that everything that I wanted to catch and link, I do catch and link. And also it's just been long enough that I think that I can read this again. And the really weird thing about reading this last night, I was very tired. But I read a little bit, and it's because it's been, I think it's been 6 months since I last read this, possibly longer. March or September, whatever, about 6 months. It's kind of weird to believe that I wrote this. Like I kind of disconnected from the process of writing this this book because it's been so long, because I've worked on books 2 and 3 since. So they're much fresher in my body and in my mind, and they feel like mine, whereas this, I feel like it's been a while, and so it's kind of weird to read it and know that this is mine. So this is where I'm starting with my reading this month, and we'll go from there. I've got to get ready to go to work soon, but I just started Summertime by Vanessa Lafay, and already I'm not loving the writing style. I don't know, maybe I'm tired, but it's not making a lot of sense to me. So Selma seemed able to manipulate anyone in the town and leave no trace, had done so when it suited her. After Cynthia Lejeune criticised Selma's peach cobbler, somehow the new sewage treatment plant got sited right upwind of the Lejeune house. It took a full-blooded fool to cross Selma. I don't understand what just happened in those 3 sentences. I mean, I'm a page and 2 pages in, and doesn't bode well. It is Sunday the 15th of September. I didn't end up doing as much reading as I had planned to this week, even though I found myself with a little bit of extra time because my niece, who I normally look after 1 day a week, was unwell, so she stayed at home, poor little small fries. And yeah, then I kind of got distracted in the garden because I found these enormous orchids, which bloom around this time every year, and so I spent an afternoon mucking around with flowers. And anyway, so I have got about halfway through The Hunted, which is my book. I found a couple of typos which I need to change because they're just the kind of ones that once you see them, you can't unsee them, and it'll annoy me knowing that they're there. There was also one weird formatting thing that somehow I didn't pick it up before, but it didn't cross over well when I uploaded the file. I assume that is my fault because I am tech challenged. So I am hopefully going to finish that maybe today, hopefully. And I'd like to try and read a little bit more of Summertime. Now, Summertime I did film some initial thoughts on, that probably won't make it into this video because they were a little bit harsh and I was quite tired. But I think basically the problem for me is, look, I'm an audio and a touch learner, so for me to make it through a book and to absorb all the information from it, it has to be really engaging and really interesting, and it has to be in a writing style that suits me, and really I don't think that this writing style suits me at all. I found that they introduced way too many characters really early on, and the trouble with that is it means that I don't really know who any of them are, nor am I particularly attached to any of them. They're now doing flashbacks quite early on. I'm only like 3 or 4 chapters in, and I don't really know who they're talking about, and so it's actually making me more confused about what age everybody is and what relation they all have to one another. There was also an incident with an alligator, which could potentially be a really interesting event, but it's just kind of dragging on. And I'm finding that generally there's a bit of a drag factor. So they're trying to make a point of how hot it was, and they were talking about one character, Missy, rubbing ice on herself to cool herself down. And they spent like a page or a page and a half making sure that you knew that she really rubbed that ice everywhere, not just her neck. She also rubbed it down her arms and her legs, and her, you know, it went on for quite some time. So the trouble that I'm having with it not actually being a writing style that I particularly like, with having too many characters too early on, is that because I am taking in this medium in a way that is not maximally conducive to my learning. So because it's not an audiobook, what's happening is I'm actually skim reading now, and that never bodes well for me with reading because it means I'm absorbing very, very little. So I'm going to try and continue on because I think that summertime actually has a subject matter that is really important and that I'm really interested in. And I'm also really a storm enthusiast, so I love the idea that a book could have a massive storm in it that everything revolves around. So I am really hopeful in a way that I will make it through this book, but early signs aren't particularly good. I also finished this week Lily Allen's autobiography, which I was listening to on audiobook, which is called My Thoughts Exactly, and that is awesome, and I've done a review for that yesterday, and you will quite possibly see that video before this one, but don't know. Glorious outside, I moved inside because I could feel myself getting sunburned, and because my neighbors started to do some work in their garden, so it started to get a little bit noisy. But I am still struggling with this book. I am not really much further through, and I am still battling on. I'm 99% of the time I'm vegetarian. There's the occasional lapse, and also like if I go to someone's house, well, you go to someone's house and you eat what you served. But I'm struggling with the amount of animal carnage in this first 5 chapters. So at the very beginning of chapter 4, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it's he had a turtle kraal for a while, but Selma had to do all the killing for him because he couldn't stand how they screamed. After she witnessed the way he hacked at the poor creatures' throats, she could well understand why they did, but meat was life, any meat that didn't already have maggots in it. I mean, was it really necessary to talk about turtles having their necks hacked? I mean, I know these things happen, which is awful, but I mean, look, I know people, particularly in the Depression, had to eat what they could get, and I understand that, but I mean, that doesn't mean we need the description of turtles having their necks hacked, because that just makes me sad. So I have read 6 chapters, I am 76 pages in, and I'm going to DNF summertime. I always feel bad saying that about another author's work because I would like to think that someone would give my work more than 6 chapters, but I mean, I did a quick skim count and there were like 12 or 13 characters introduced in chapter 1 alone, and the trouble is that I'm just having trouble tracking who's related to whose perspective we're in at the moment, and how it's all relevant, because some of the characters seem to be briefly relevant and then that's it, they're gone. And so I'm just struggling to get into the storyline. I think I've been pretty clear with the fact that the writing style is not for me and that the story is dragging a little bit for me. They are starting to get to the point where the soldiers are returning from war and slowly making their way back down to Florida and kind of finding their way back into their family and into society, but unfortunately it's not enough to keep me going. And I really wanted to like this book. I wanted to like it for a number of reasons, and as I said, very superficially, I got super excited about the fact that there was supposed to be a major storm in this book, but it's taken too long to get there for me, and quite honestly, I just don't have the time to battle on if I'm not engaged with the book. And it looks like there's about 350 odd pages in this book, and I am 76 in and I'm out. So this is going to be the end of this reading vlog, and I'm sorry it's so dark, but it is about to bucket down outside and I need to rush out and grab my laundry in a second. So these were the books I was planning on reading. I DNF'd Summertime. I did finish my own book, The Hunted, which was really nice, and it was a nice experience to reread that, having not read it for quite a while, because it actually remotivated me to get back into writing, and I've had heaps of ideas, and I have printed off what I have of manuscripts for book 4, 5, and 6 in the series, and I've also got heaps of ideas what I wanted to add to it. I just wanted to be able to look through a physical copy and see it all, rather than flipping windows in Word documents and trying to get a clear idea of that. I am onto deciding between the Loney and the Color Purple, and I think because I know what the Color Purple is about, because I've seen the movie, I think I'm going to start with the Loney, because I've got no idea what this is about. And I love the cover. I'm probably not going to get very far into it in the next couple of days, even though I have some time off work for a change, because I'm actually having surgery tomorrow and I have to be at the hospital at 6:15 a.m. and I am not a morning person. So it's probably going to take me at least 24 hours to get over the fact that someone got me out of bed before 8 a.m, which sounds terrible, but I'm not a morning person. I would quite happily stay up till 5 a.m, 6 a.m, but getting out of bed at 6 a.m, tomorrow's not going to be pretty. So yeah, and well, realistically, there's also bigger fish to fry than what I read right now. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have, and let me know below in the comments if you have read either of these 2 books and what you thought of them, and I will see you in another video again soon.